Every military campaign begins with a plan. The real question is whether that plan can survive contact with reality. In recent months, one issue has become increasingly difficult to ignore. Despite sustained military pressure, repeated strikes, and growing regional involvement, the conflict surrounding Iran has not produced the kind of decisive outcome many observers initially expected. Instead of ending quickly, the confrontation appears to be evolving into something far more complex, one where political objectives, military capability, economic pressure, and strategic endurance are colliding at the same time. When analysts evaluate a war, they often focus on weapons, troop numbers, or air power. Those factors certainly matter, but they rarely determine the entire outcome. Modern conflicts are increasingly shaped by logistics, industrial production, supply chains, economic resilience, and the ability to sustain military operations over time. Possessing superior technology does not automatically translate into achieving strategic goals if the cost of maintaining that advantage continues to rise. This is where the current conflict becomes especially significant. Every interceptor missile, precision-guided weapon, surveillance platform, and naval deployment represents not only military capability, but also industrial capacity. Advanced systems are expensive to replace, require continuous production, and must remain available for multiple global commitments simultaneously. A prolonged regional conflict therefore creates pressures that extend far beyond a single battlefield. Another overlooked factor is strategic geography. The Strait of Hormuz remains one of the world's most important maritime corridors. Any disruption affecting commercial shipping through this route immediately attracts international attention because energy exports, insurance markets, transportation costs, and global trade are all connected to its stability. This explains why military activity in the Gulf often produces consequences that reach financial markets thousands of miles away. At the same time, no regional conflict exists in complete isolation. Major powers constantly evaluate how events influence broader strategic competition. A government facing challenges in one region may find its military resources, diplomatic attention, and industrial production increasingly divided among multiple priorities. As commitments expand, every new operation carries an opportunity cost somewhere else. That dynamic has become one of the defining characteristics of contemporary geopolitics. This leads to a more important question than simply asking who fired more missiles. What happens when every additional military operation produces diminishing strategic returns, while the political, economic, and logistical costs continue to grow? That question may ultimately shape not only the future of this conflict, but also the strategic calculations of governments confronting similar crises in an increasingly competitive international system. History suggests that prolonged conflicts are rarely decided by military capability alone. They are often determined by which side can better absorb economic pressure, maintain industrial production, preserve political stability, and continue supporting military operations over an extended period. As wars become longer, endurance gradually becomes just as important as firepower. Another critical factor is strategic flexibility. Every government must constantly balance immediate military objectives against future security requirements. Resources committed to one theater cannot be deployed elsewhere at the same time. This means that prolonged regional conflicts influence not only the battlefield itself, but also the broader strategic priorities of major powers across multiple regions. Decision makers must therefore evaluate every operation through the lens of long-term national interests rather than short-term tactical gains. The conflict also highlights the growing importance of economic geography. Critical maritime routes remain essential to global commerce, and even limited disruptions can influence energy markets, transportation costs, and international supply chains. Financial markets often respond not only to military events themselves, but also to the possibility that commercial shipping could become less predictable. In today's interconnected economy, strategic waterways have become as significant as traditional battlefields. Another important lesson concerns international partnerships. Regional governments increasingly face the challenge of balancing relationships with multiple global powers while protecting their own economic and security interests. Rather than relying exclusively on a single external partner, many states may seek greater strategic flexibility as global competition continues to evolve. This reflects a broader trend toward a more complex international environment where diplomacy, economics, and security are becoming increasingly interconnected. Ultimately, the most important question may not be who gains the next tactical advantage. The more significant issue is whether military operations can produce sustainable political outcomes without creating larger strategic costs over time. Every prolonged conflict forces governments to weigh military success against economic resilience, diplomatic relationships, industrial capacity, and public support. When those factors begin moving in different directions, even the most powerful nations face increasingly difficult choices. This is why I believe the current situation deserves careful observation. Not because it provides simple answers, but because it illustrates how modern geopolitics has fundamentally changed. Today's strategic competition is no longer measured solely by military strength. It is increasingly defined by resilience, logistics, economic adaptability, technological capacity, and the ability to sustain national objectives over time. In the years ahead, these factors may prove more influential than any single military operation, because lasting geopolitical influence is built not only through force, but through the capacity to endure when circumstances become most challenging.